All right, welcome everyone. We are excited to have you all. So please feel free to get comfortable as we are about to begin the program here shortly. Of course, we wanted to just go over some housekeeping items. And one of the main things that we want to have is engagement throughout the whole entire time. So we hope that you are relaxed and ready to have an engaging conversation and find some great information here. So we just want to note the chat feature that is there. So if you want to just tell us where you are tuned in from, just to make sure that we can get the chat warmed up and that make sure that we know that we are getting some responses coming in and that you all are here. We just want to make sure that you all use that chat feature. If there are any questions or comments that you all have, please use the chat feature. And also, we wanted to let you all know that there will be some polls that will pop up from time to time. So we would love to have your engagement there. So if you see a poll pop up on your screen in the middle of the conversation, please feel free to let us know so that way we can make sure that we are staying engaged with you all throughout the whole entire program. And we're excited to have you all here. And without further ado, we want to make sure that we are, like I said, staying engaged with the chat, with the polls, and we are going to turn it over to the beginning feature of the night. We have Darnell. Can you please start clapping it up right now in the chat for Darnell Johnson?
Thanks a lot, Derek and Chris, for the support, and thank everyone for joining in tonight. It's a pleasure, and we're excited to be able to share this first series around the electric vehicle equity evolution. Tonight is a monumental night for us to be able to bring this information forward and to be able to start having engaging conversation with disinvested communities around an emerging space that's going to ultimately impact all of our lives at some point in the not so distant future. And it's important to us that we're able to ensure that there is an equitable lens provided to this space so that folks will be able to not only understand the importance of electric vehicles, but have access, awareness, and understand the affordability features that are associated with the electric vehicle or the EV space. And so without further ado, what I want to do is I want to introduce our panelists, and we have a quite impressive group this tonight to be able to share some very meaningful information around the electric vehicle space. And so the first, and this is the Urban Efficiency Group is a urban community sustainability design firm, and our focus is to design end-to-end strategies that will empower disinvested communities to be more sustainable and to be on par or ahead of pace with the emerging technologies within the sustainability space overall. And this tonight is being done in partnership with one of the municipalities that we're very excited about their comprehensive plan, about the vision of this mayor, the Village of Broadview, being led by Mayor Katrina Thompson. She is a pathfinder and a cavalier in her own right, doing some amazing things in the Village of Broadview and wanting to make sure that she leaves a mark on the village to ensure the sustainable future of the Village of Broadview. And so secondly, we're going to hear from a very well-informed gentleman, Mr. Joe. Joe serves as the Program and Development Manager at Forth. His focus is on electric school buses and tractors, as well as business development and grant writing. Prior to Forth, Joe worked in clean energy at the nonprofit Solar Oregon. Joe is a regular contributor to the blog Clean Technica and serves on the board of PACE Ghana. And so we're really excited to have Joe with us tonight as well. And then we have with us Jeffrey, who founded VoltPost with the mission to decarbonize mobility in cities. This is done by retrofitting lampposts into smart electric vehicle charging stations managed by a mobile application. This solution aims to accelerate EV adoption by providing city-scalable curbside charging for drivers. The founding team is ex-Samsung and ex-Barclays. We're very excited about what Jeffrey and his team is doing as well. And so we're very appreciative for all of these individuals. And what I want to do without further ado is I want to make sure that I turn this over to the chief executive of the city, Mayor Katrina Thompson. She's going to provide us with her vision and the layout and how her vision connects with this whole EV and electric space that we're going to be talking about tonight. Mayor Thompson.
Thank you, Darnell, for that introduction. And I want to say greetings on behalf of the Village of Broadview. So sustainability, our plan is to seek a vibrant, sustainable future for our community. The consensus goals of the Broadview Alliance Sustainability Plan aim to enhance quality of life for residents, protection and stewardship of the environment, and sustainability, economic vitality. And so what does that all mean to us? So I just want to go into a few pointers on how we got to our plan as it relates to climate control and our sustainability plan. But first, I would like to thank the Village of Broadview Board of Trustees for being supportive as we developed the Broadview Alliance Sustainability Plan for the Village of Broadview. We've been working on our plan since August 2020, and we have community partners. Our community partners are Lindop School District 92, Dr. Jackson, President Karen Conley, SBC Waste Management Solutions. She's the first woman-owned business in that space of work. Our IT specialist is Robert Hurd. Our park commissioner for the Broadview Park District, Alicia Johnson. Our village administrator is part of the committee. And then we have the Urban Efficiency Group, Darnell Johnson, which have taken us to the next level. And I'm really excited about that, to share our future goals and hope and pray that all of the 14 communities that's within the Proviso Township will jump on board to make their community environmental friendly. So we are working to become an eco district certified according to the eco district's protocols. What do that mean? We have key stakeholders making decisions in place of our local school district, our business partners, residents, park district, and the library are key decision makers on our committee. The protocol that we're following includes equity, resilience, and climate protection, and our priorities focus on the following 6 items, which is place, that identifies engagement and inclusion, cultural identity, public space and housing. 2, prosperity, which includes access to opportunity, economic development, and innovation. 3, health and well-being. This includes active living, health, safety, and food systems. 4, connectivity, includes street network, mobility, and digital network. And I think we're going to talk a lot about the connectivity as it relates to the mobility with the EV emissions. Living infrastructure, this includes natural features, ecosystems, and connection with nature. And resource regeneration, which includes our air, climate, water, and waste. So that's at a high level. What I want for the Village of Broadview is I want to inspire our community to be more informed on the pressing issues surrounding climate issues such as clean water, electricity, education, healthcare, and workforce development, but not limited to climate and environmental literacy, climate restoration, technology, regenerative agriculture, equity, and environmental justice and cleanups, and more in this space. This work is what it's all about. Our goals address the following measurable, and we will create a pathway for funding surrounding the following: solar energy for residential, commercial, and industrial. And I'm happy to announce that our village board passed a MOU for us to have those relationships with our industrial partners to put solar paneling on their respective business place. We do have protocols and ordinance in place for residents to take advantage of solar paneling on their own residential property. Electric vehicle emissions, that's what this conversation is really about this evening, is the EV component of it. And I'm excited about this because it takes us into the next level of what we should be doing. So as we reconstruct all of our municipal lots, we have allocated conduits in place so that we can charge the electric vehicles. We have Amazon that's coming to town within the next year or so, and we've asked them to put conduits for either the consumer to take advantage of to charge their vehicles, or as they go into converting their vehicles from diesel or gas to electric. So they will have conduits where they're going to go into the electric vehicles for their own delivery service. So that was a plus for us. Energy efficiency, green infrastructure. On the green infrastructure, we've already started that work. Our senior housing development, which is a 72 unit that will be opening for the seniors and veterans at the end of this year, is a green infrastructure building. The building that I'm sitting in right now is a green infrastructure building in compliance with clean energy. A lot of our alleys within the Village of Broadview are green infrastructure. In equity and environmental justice, So when we talk about the equity and environmental justice of this whole platform, we want to make sure that in the Black and Brown community that we have equity in it, and then that we environmental safe in the space that we in. So that's creating healthy homes. Most children have asthma, or children under 6, it could be lead, depending on the age of the house or the apartment that they're living in, could be exposed to lead. And we want to make sure that we address all of those issues so people have a healthy home that they're living in with their children that's under 6, so that we don't having these children with asthma. Asthma is big in the youth. So I think I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Darnell as we go into the phase approach on how we evolve into the electric vehicle space. But I do want to say this, as we look at the future mobility, it's not just the electric vehicles, as we know that our governor just signed the Reimagine Electric Vehicle Act yesterday. And this is one step towards the governor's goal of putting 1 million electric vehicles on the road by 2030. The Village of Broadview is in compliance with making sure that we can be able to have folks that want to drive electric vehicles have some place to charge their vehicles. And so we in line with the governor's, the act that he signed on yesterday. We are in line and ready to put the charging stations in place so that we can be efficient as it relates to clean energy and what that looks like for our community at large, not just in the Village of Broadview, but for the entire township. So Darnell, I'll turn it over to you, and I'm happy to answer any questions anyone may have at the end of the webinar.
Thanks, Mayor. Appreciate that. And what we're going to do is, before I go any further, I want to make sure that we bring it to the attention of all of our attendees that there will be interactive questions. So we want to make this as interactive as possible. As Derek mentioned earlier, we want to make sure that we are able to get in real time your responses to the questions that will be popping up on your screen. And so we're asking if you would please, as these various pieces of presentations are being offered, that as questions are populating, that you would answer those questions so that it informs us as designers on what we should be doing next. This is very important because it allows us to understand what you're thinking, questions that you may have, and what we need to do going forward to ensure that we are delivering not only what we think is best, but what you feel is important as well. One of the things that we're really big on is procedural justice, and procedural justice is ensuring that all persons that will be impacted by a decision, that their voice and that their input is heard, and it informs the decisions that we will make going forward. And so we want desperately for you all to be a part of this process. And we ask that you would definitely, as these questions are popping up, that you would answer those questions for us, as it provides for us, answers in real time. And we will then share with you the polling results so that you'll be able to see how other folks have responded more on an average of how these questions are being responded to. So I want to thank you for that in advance. We also want to make sure we acknowledge all of the folks in the chat. Thank you for putting your responses in the chat. We see the folks from various parts, Broadview and abroad, South Suburbs, South Holland, further western suburbs, Mount Prospect. We see everyone in the chat. So I want to thank you guys for that, for putting that in the chat. And please don't be shy. If you hear anything that's being presented on throughout this entire session that you have questions on, don't hesitate to put it in the chat you can either go under Q&A and put it in the chat, and we'll make sure that we get to those questions. But don't be shy. We want to hear from you, and we want to make sure that our experts and practitioners are able to provide answers to those questions as completely and as detailed as possible. So thank you. To the mayor's point, and I want to get through this relatively quickly because I want to make sure that we give our experts and practitioners ample time, and also be able to give ample time for you all that are listening in for questions and answers. So, Urban Efficiency Group, we're very diligent in ensuring that we are working in a way that makes the most sense to the populations that we're intending to serve. And so with the mayor's comprehensive plan, as we work with her and her team to develop that plan, it was really important that we understood not only what was important to the mayor, but what was important to the broader community, which is why she went during the formation of her team. We made sure that it was diverse and that it was inclusive of folks from various types of backgrounds. And so within that, process, we've been able to assemble a very efficient team of folks. The mayor has prioritized electric vehicles within the Broadview community because of the densely populated area, because of the high traffic being located just south of 290 and having all of the other major corridors that run through and around her city. It was important that she began to notice that there was no electric vehicle charging available, not only for the residents, but for folks that were traveling through the city. And so that became a high priority on her roadmap to ensure that this was something that we brought forward. Just it so happens that as we were working on that, all of the other attention from the governor and at the federal level began to happen. But I can say that Mayor Thompson was already having these discussions with us about the importance of electric vehicles and charging before some of this more exciting news became available in the public domain. And so Evolve is the effort that we are working on, and Evolve is a three-part initiative. It is the first is awareness, is what we're doing right now, is to make sure that we're hosting these various town hall meetings and webinars so that we can get information out into the public, to the public community stakeholders and other business stakeholders to understand what her plan is and to make sure that information is being provided around this emerging space so that the community can be informed and make informed choices. So the first part is awareness, and we're going to be hosting more of these webinars. So we're thankful for having everyone's email contact because we're going to continue to send this information out about future upcoming webinars and sessions. The second thing is making sure that we have access to be able to feel the texture of what it means to drive an electric vehicle and how does that feel and what are the different options and the amenities that those vehicles offer. So we're going to be, in 2022, we'll be rolling out a component called the Evolve Self-Serve Test Drive, which is ultimately you will go through an approval process if you choose to participate to be able to drive the vehicle. And then vehicles will be designated at certain locations. You'll be given access to a shared calendar. Once you select the date and time that you want to have access to that vehicle, you will be then sent a code that will allow you to access that vehicle for a 2-hour block of time. Upon completion, you will return the vehicle back to the charging location and the vehicle will be locked. And so that's called the Evolve Self-Serve Test Drive. And that's going to be happening in 2022. So there will be questions populated in this session asking if you would be interested in a test drive. And if so, to enter your email address. And that's the reason why we're asking for that information. So once that comes about, we will be able to then communicate that information to you. The last part, and this is something we're really excited about, is making sure that there's infrastructure in place to support the adoption of electric vehicles. And that infrastructure support begins with having accessibility to charging stations. So we've developed something called Blue Map. Blue Map is a platform that will be driven by, and it's ultimately what we're calling a intercommunal infrastructure initiative. But we are leveraging our high school students, and we're training these students to be able to not only understand, what specifications are needed for a charging site to be qualified, but also to upload that information in real time, upload that information to a platform that will then be made available in real time to our EV charging partners, so that they will be able to see exactly where these new approved sites are and ultimately be able to then deliver more charging stations into those communities. The thing about Mayor Thompson, she's already identified that through her planning, through her city planning. So once we'll be able to upload those sites to the Blue Map and make those live. I see in the chat that Malia Callahan, which is one of our students from the Green Generation, who's also part of this whole effort to ensure that there's more updates on the Blue Map effort. She's working with that initiative, and she's in the call. I want to give Malia a shout out and tell her thank you for joining the call today. And so we're really excited because this allows our students to be able to get engaged at a very important level, teach them a transferable skill set, and then ultimately allow them to have access to this emerging space. So we're going to be ultimately expanding this and making this a part of Mayor Thompson's effort as well. And the Blue Map effort has what we call the three E's, which is there's an education component for our students to be educated. There's an economic component where there will be a workforce opportunity for these students to be paid for their time. And they're doing something very meaningful that's going to promote equity, which is the last E, to ensure that there's greater access to these charging stations within disinvested communities where currently it's very limited. And so that's the whole Evolve initiative. It is an electric vehicle or an EV effort to ensure that there's greater accessibility to these types of technologies and opportunities. And so with that being said, I want to digress now because we have some very great information coming forward we're going to start with Joe from Fourth. And he's dynamic. He has a ton of information that he's going to share with us. And then following Joe will be Jeff. He's going to come in. He's going to talk about this innovation with the charging with using the street lights. And so these gentlemen have some great information coming forward. There will be, again, interoperable questions or interactive questions popping up intermittently on the screen. We ask that you would ask those questions. If you have any questions that have not been answered, we definitely will encourage you to put something in the Q&A chat. So that we can get to those. Without further ado, I want to introduce to you once again Joe from Fourth, and he's going to take us into the next segment of this session. Joe.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Darnell. It's so great to be with you all. And thanks, Mayor Thompson, as well. Really, really just so excited to be with everyone tonight. Let's see, I think I have a slide presentation. Let's see, I think I see it here. Perfect. Great. It's getting loaded. Thanks so much. Yeah. So I'll run through my slides, but I would love to hear, just like Darnell was saying, any sort of questions you have. I'll keep an eye out in the Q&A and try to answer those in real time. And just kind of a chat about electric vehicles. And if I'm missing something, please let me know. Darnell, I don't see on the agenda how much time you were. How much time should I give myself? If you want to just send me a message about that, I'll start off. But okay, so we are. So we're going to be talking about electric vehicles. I'll run through this first slide quickly. I'm actually coming to you from Portland, Oregon, so on the West Coast. I've been really enjoying connecting with Darnell and pushing forward electric transportation in the Chicago region. And we can talk about all the different exciting ways that we're looking to do that. But so Fourth, we're just a nonprofit. We promote electric transportation. We're based in Oregon, but we do work throughout the United States. And we try to get everything on wheels electrified. So that's everything from bikes to buses to cars, you name it. Electric cars, and we'll see in a second, are just so much cleaner. They're cheaper to maintain, cheaper to fuel. It's the way to go in the future. So a little bit of what we do, we work in like policy, we do like consumer education like this, and then we do like demonstration projects. Like I work on an electric tractor team, which is super fun. Okay, so why do we care about electric vehicles? Well, number one, they clean our air. Mayor Thompson was talking about asthma. You know, asthma is an enormous problem in our communities in our time. Electric vehicles, there was a study that came out last year that every EV on the road saves $10,000 just in the social benefits of cleaner air. So cleaner air, less, you're breathing less pollution, and leads to lower cases of things like asthma. So EVs clean our community. Our money stays local. Instead of sending our dollars to oil states that are not doing great things, we we will be investing that in local electric production. A lot of that, as Mayor Thompson was talking about, is coming from locally produced solar energy, which is growing like crazy. So that's really exciting. Fighting climate change. I don't know how the summers have been in Illinois, but the last couple of years here out west, things are just getting really scary. Fires every summer that are getting worse, smoke in our cities, and things just getting really hot. It hit 115 degrees here in Portland last year. By far the hottest temperature ever recorded. So I hope you guys aren't seeing some of that, but I think people are feeling climate change all the time now. And electric vehicles can have almost zero emissions. And then again, supporting renewable energy. So a couple different types of electric vehicles. You can have either a pure electric car, so that's 100% electric, completely battery powered. You just charge it and you can only fuel it on electricity. And then there's these other ones called plug-in hybrid vehicles. So we all probably heard of hybrids. A plug-in hybrid has an electric battery that so you can plug in, usually get about 30 miles of range, 30 to 50 miles of range. And so you get you drive 30 to 50 miles on electric, and then there's a gas engine that kicks in afterwards. So those are the two type of electric vehicles. EVs, if you guys aren't, oh, perfect. Thanks so much. EVs, if you haven't seen, are exploding everywhere. So there are 2 million EVs and counting. You know, I like to say, like, in the US right now in the summer, we hit 5% of car sales were electric vehicles. That's pretty exciting. It was just like 1% last year, 1 and 2%. In countries like Europe, electric vehicles are going crazy. In Norway, 10 years ago, there were electric vehicles represented 1% of car sales. And today, 10 years later, it's 90%. So we could see electric vehicles take over completely in this decade. And a lot of automakers are expecting that to happen. But electric vehicles aren't just cars. As we were talking about a little bit earlier, electric vehicles are buses, they're school buses, they are trucks, they're tractors, they're delivery cars. So all these vehicles are driving through our communities. A lot of them are not the cleanest, especially diesel vehicles. And we want to electrify everything so that we're cleaning the air in our communities and saving money on transportation and fuel. And it doesn't even, those were like heavier duty vehicles. These are, electric vehicles can be lighter duty. We're all familiar with the scooters that are taking over the world. There's also electric bikes. There are electric, these 3-wheeled electric vehicles on the bottom. This is an Oregon automaker called Arcimoto, really kind of funky looking vehicles. And then there are these electric trikes, they call them, delivery trikes. So all the exciting thing about electric transportation is it just comes in so many forms and shapes across the country. So Melvin, I just see in the chat, and I'll try to do this. Is it true that there are only 650 EV stations across the USA? No, that is not true. There are 17,000 charging stations across the US today, and it's growing fast. It's growing at like 60%, 7% a quarter. So just think about it. 10 years ago, there were 0 charging stations, and today there are 17,000. And if anybody who wants to guess in the chat how many gas stations there are, we can kind of take a look at what the difference is. So, we got a poll going too, as well. Lots of exciting interaction. So yeah, there are. Oh, that's good. Mark's saying 116,000, a little higher gas station wise. So there actually are over 150,000 gas stations throughout the U.S., right? And we've got 17,000 fast charging stations. Those are just your quick ones where you need, and we'll talk about the different types of charging. But so we're about at 12% of what there are for gas stations. But most people charge their car at their house or their apartment, and so you don't really need to match the total number of gas stations. So we and they're growing fast. And 10 years ago, there were 0 charging stations. So they're just coming online all the time. This just shows you how driving an electric car is just cheaper, is cleaner than any gas car. It's kind of a confusing map, but it shows you that if you're driving electric, and let's look in Illinois, it looks like in Illinois, if you're driving electric, it's as if you're driving a gas car that gets 56 miles a gallon. That's how much cleaner it is. And in the Northwest, it's 102 miles a gallon. That's how much cleaner it is. It's just showing you the equivalent. it's getting cleaner all the time. The Biden is saying that we're going to clean up our electricity to get 100% clean electricity in 15 years. So in 15 years, it'll be zero emissions at all. And then this map just shows the most efficient EVs, like Teslas, are even more efficient than the other ones. So this slide is a little bit dated. It shows you that to get about a gallon of electric fuel, I think this was the last year that we made this slide, it was $2.79. Now we all know, I don't know what it is in Illinois, but in Oregon, the gas is getting close to $4 a gallon, at least last time I checked. And electric fuel is under $1. I calculated for my house, we pay about 66 cents a gallon. That means to like go 30 miles. So you're saving a lot of money on the fuel costs. And electric rates, they don't go crazy up and down like gas cars do. They kind of stay pretty level because there's so many ways to produce electricity. And the great thing about it is that electric vehicles are way cheaper to maintain. They have a couple moving parts rather than the thousands of moving parts that normal gas cars have. So that studies say you save anywhere from like 40 to 60% on your maintenance. So no more going to the car mechanic and be like, oh man, I have so much to spend on fixing up my car. The electric vehicles really, there's not much going on. You have a battery, a motor, and wheels. You change your tires and your windshield wipers. And that's basically it. So that's really exciting. I can speak from experience. I've been lucky enough. We bought a used electric car for $7,000 in 2017. And it's the only thing we've had to do is change tires and the windshield wipers. And that's almost 5 years now that we had the car. So just speaking from experience, there's really no maintenance on an electric car. It's going to save consumers a lot of money. So the top line is for Oregon. These slides, you get a rebate. I'm not sure on the Illinois rebate. I'll look that up after I'm done if there's a rebate. But there is a federal tax credit if you buy an electric car where you get $7,500 back on your tax credits. Wow, and Mayor Thompson is showing how much $17 billion is going to Illinois. That's really fantastic for electric vehicles and electric transportation. And then, so we talked about, electric vehicles are, they're a lot cheaper to fuel. They are a lot cheap. They don't break down. And then they're just and they're great for the air, and they're just really fun to drive. With Darnell's the self-service test ride program next year, I hope you all get to try driving an electric vehicle. It's really fun. It's instant acceleration. You don't have gears or anything, just instantly going. They're really zippy. They have great handling, and they're just very quiet. So it's just the future of transportation, and we want to get to that future sooner than later. Okay, so I'll get just really quick, say the different ways to charge. Melvin was asking about the charging station. So, really, if you think about it, a lot of people don't know you can charge your electric car into any outlet. So any outlet that you can reach your charging cord to is fair game, as long as it's got that grounding at the bottom. Any outlet can charge your car. So for my family, for 4 years, we just plugged into an outlet, a normal outlet. You get about 5 miles of charge an hour. So you think about that. After 1 hour, if you can go 5 more miles in your car. So if you have a car with like 200 miles of battery range, then, let me do my math here. That would be about 40 hours of charging from 0 to full. But charging is a little different with electric cars. You're used to going to the gas station and you fill up the car when it's empty. Charging your car, usually you just you drive it for a couple days and you're like, oh, my battery's to 50%. It's like your cell phone. I'll just charge it up overnight. Oh, and when you wake up, you're up at 80% and you're perfect. So great. And so let's see. Tiana said, in a world where we know that technology glitches, what is put into place to minimize those glitches? Yeah, I think with any technology, electric vehicles and gas cars, there are always going to be challenges and glitches. The good news about electric vehicles, like I said before, is there are just way fewer parts, so there's less to go wrong. So that would be my best answer for that one. But I'd love to hear what other people think in the chat. So the first way is just to plug into a normal outlet. The second type of charging is to plug into what's called a 240 volt outlet, or your dryer outlet. And this is after a couple years of just charging on a normal outlet. My family, we had a dryer outlet installed on the outside of our house. We don't have a driveway. And we charge our car here, and you get anywhere from 12 to 40 miles of charge. We get 30 miles of charge. So my battery has 300 miles of range. It takes 10 hours to charge from 0 to full. But that's like overnight usually. Again, usually I charge it at like 50%. So it only takes a couple hours. These are great for homes. You see them at supermarkets. Mayor Thompson was saying how your community is trying really hard to get electric charging stations installed. We have seen that in some communities, and usually it's disinvested communities, that they're not charging nearly enough. They're not installing nearly enough charging stations. So I really applaud your efforts, and I hope that we can help in any way. So then there's some people charge at work. You can install chargers. These level 2 chargers, they call them. Level 1 is that first outlet. Level 2 is the laundry outlet. And then level 3 is a fast charging. This is, I think, what Melvin was referring to before, the fast charging stations. Now, we said before, there's 17,000 of them across. They're on every route going across the United States now. It's amazing. A couple years ago, that wasn't true. Now they're just building them like crazy. The level 3 charger, most of the time, you're just going to charge your car at your house. It's just so convenient. It's cheaper. Level 3 is when you're on a trip. And this one is where usually you charge your car to 80%, and it takes 20 to 40 minutes usually. So you get a coffee. I can speak from experience. We took our car across the country this year. We drove and we charged it dozens of times at these faster charging stations. And so you can really go anywhere with these. It's a little longer than filling up a gas car, but you usually only need it when you're on a trip. Let's see here. My next slide. Oh yeah. So people are like, well, where do I find charging stations? There's some good apps to help you find charging stations. Some of the cars help you. I'll put in the chat room. One of the good ones is called PlugShare. I think it's plugshare.com. That is a great opportunity. So that'll show you all the different charging stations in your region and where you can charge. And so you can see on the map here, the green ones are those are the slower level 2 ones, and the map, the website tells you how to read this map. And then the orange ones are the faster ones, so you can see there's more slower ones than faster ones, and more charging stations are just going in all the time. Great. So yeah, you find them. You can find them on your map. Another app is called ChargeWay. I'll put it in the chat room to find charging stations. Another good app to see. And then this is an example of all the charging stations that are out there and being built. And this was last year. I think you can see at the bottom, there's a little gap in poor South Dakota, North Dakota, but that has been filled. So you can really go anywhere with electric vehicles, and charging stations are going to be built like crazy. A lot of these apps help you plan your trips. So you're like, okay, I want to go. We got California in here. Looks like San Francisco to maybe Portland it was. And it's like, where do I need to charge? And the app or the car will help you charge or tell you how long you need to go and charge and find your chargers for you. So it's your phone or your car helps you find your charging station. So Ronald has a good question. Has anyone calculated the amount of electricity needed to produce and replace every vehicle in America? Also the cost and emissions of power companies that provide homes with electricity that now may need to provide for cars also. Great question, Ronald. So the figures I've heard for, switching all of our cars to electric is that we're going to need to double the current amount of electricity that we produce. So that's, I don't have the exact figure, but that's kind of the rule of thumb. We're gonna have to kind of double the electricity. But the people I've talked to, the utilities I've talked to are not too worried about it in the sense of we're gonna need to build more wind turbines and solar panels. But a lot of folks are gonna be charging their cars at night. And that's when, people are gonna be encouraged to charge their cars. And and there's not a lot of electricity usage at night, so that there's going to be all this excess capacity that can charge the cars at night. So they're not too worried. We need to grow, and we need our electric supply. We need to be smart with how we charge. And then the pollution question is just kind of what I referred to a little bit earlier. The electricity anywhere in the country today, electric cars are a lot cleaner than gas. Usually they emit 1/3 of the carbon emissions and 0 of the other emissions that cause asthma, the local air pollution. So they're already so much cleaner. We got to switch ASAP. And in the near future, remember the Biden administration has a plan to get to all zero emission electric production by 2035. So electricity is just, if you look at a graph, electricity is just getting cleaner and cleaner. The emissions are dropping off a cliff, and that's just happening at a really fast pace. So electric driving is cleaner today, and it's just getting cleaner all the time. Okay, so now the fun part, a couple electric vehicles here. This is the money shot of all the beautiful cars out there. The top left is the Tesla Model 3. My family splurged on one in 2019. It was one of the first luxury purchases I'd ever made, and it's such a fun car. And Tesla is ahead of the game. They built their own network, and you can drive the cars really anywhere. The car tells you where to charge. I'm a big fan of Tesla. The one on the right is a VW ID4. This is just out this year, and that has about 250 miles of range. The one on the middle left is a Nissan. They just announced this, I think, today that this is coming to the United States. Again, I think most of the cars are around 250 miles of range. The Ford Mustang Mach-E is really exciting. That's out, and the Hyundai Ioniq. I'm not sure if the Ioniq is out yet. So those are a couple of the fun cars that are there. Yep, Lucid, Wendy's saying, is just making their first deliveries to customers. Yeah, Lucid is a new up-and-coming electric vehicle company, and they're really exciting to watch. They're the first car that has over 500 miles of range, but they're kind of following Tesla in that they're producing a really expensive car first to earn some money to produce the less expensive cars. So I can't remember what the Lucid Air cost, but it's out of my price range, pretty expensive. This one is really exciting. This I believe is in Illinois, Rivian's, and folks can comment in the chat. Rivian is the new pickup truck in the chat, in Maker in Illinois, and they are producing their R1T truck that is just starting to roll off the line, and it's getting great reviews. And then Ford has announced it's got a new pickup truck coming out next year. It's got a really competitive price, I think, at $40,000, and then there's all the tax credits after that. Tesla has a crazy pickup truck coming, the Cybertruck, next year. And then I just want to put out a plug for the used EVs. These are, this is how we bought our first car. It was a used Nissan Leaf. Again, we got it for $7,000. Everything's more expensive these days just because of supply constraints, but used EVs are just a great option to try EVs and to get them less expensive. So this is just an example of the Nissan Leaf, the Chevy Bolt. Usually you can get them for under 20, under 15,000, depending here. My colleague Witt was putting some of the prices on there. I've seen them for a little bit less than this, but oh, great. Troy has the 22 Chevy Bolt and loves it. And so I would just really highlight the fact that used EVs are a really great option, and people don't think about that. The cars I showed before are the expensive, flashy electric cars, $30,000 to $40,000. But the used EVs again are just fantastic. And remember, EVs don't have any maintenance problems. They just keep going and going and have batteries. All they have are a couple moving parts. So you can go buy a used EV and be assured that you're not going to get a lemon. It's going to be a great car and run you and run really well. So can't recommend it enough. In Oregon, we have a rebate also for used EVs. You get $5,000 off a used EV. So you can sometimes get a used EV for $7,000, $8,000 and then get $5,000 off. So I'm hopeful, Illinois, if you don't have that, you can get a rebate like that as well soon. Great. So that is it for me. Any questions? I'm happy to see people in the chat, and happy to take any other as well. And Darnell, feel free to let me know if I missed anything in covering. Great. I see Darnell's putting in the chat, is there a one-stop shop for used EV purchases? You know, I was asking my colleague Whit about that and talking with Darnell. You know, a lot of the used EVs is local, and we do have a couple used EV places in Oregon. So Darnell, I'll have to get back to you on some good resources for Illinois for used EVs, but I'll make sure I do that.
Okay. Thanks, Joe. Great job. I mean, thanks for the information. Deborah, I've heard concerns from folks about increased car insurance rates for EVs. Can you speak to that, Joe?
You know, we haven't seen car insurance be more expensive for electric vehicles. And I can speak, you know, from anecdotally from myself and just from we do get that question a lot. We haven't seen a significant price premium. So I wouldn't expect you to find higher costs for insurance for EVs. And Troy's confirming that. Yeah.
Now, Joe, I think we missed Bradley Wooten had a question around standardizing plugs for charging.
Yeah, really great question. Yeah, I can answer that pretty quickly. Yeah, if you remember the types of charging I put here, I'm going to just scroll really quick back. There's 3 types of charging, and for when you plug in your normal outlet, and it's just kind of, we call it a trickle charge. It's really slow. That's just a standard plug. Everyone's got that. So that's the same for everybody, and you just plug into a normal plug. The level 2, the faster laundry outlet type, that's the same. It's a standard plug. The only challenge was on these level 3s, the faster charging that you need on a trip. And here there are, this diagram is showing 3 types of chargers, but there's actually now pretty much only 2. One of this charger in the middle, CHAdeMO, is going away. So there's really 2 types of nozzles that are out there. One is this one on the left that every automaker uses now. And then one is, except the one on the right, Tesla has their own. Tesla was the first one to kind of make up charging standards, and so they made up their own. In Europe, Tesla is using the one on the left, but in the United States, they're still using their own one. The good news is that there are adapters you can get to go from one to the other, so you can charge on other types of charging stations. So you can still use all the different types of charging stations. It would be nice just to have one type of plug, but right now there are 2, just for the fast charging. Should I answer Tiana's question? If I'm not mistaken, Mustang currently has an all-electric SUV, though I haven't seen any on the road. Are more luxury auto brands looking to go electric as well? Yeah, I would say so. Mustang does. Ford does have that luxury Mustang SUV-ish crossover SUV for sale. It's a beautiful looking car, and I would say lots of the luxury brands, Audi, Mercedes. They're all, the luxury vans are the one who are getting into it first, and so those are all out there. They're just more expensive, anywhere from $60,000 to $120,000 for the luxury SUVs.
You got one. We actually got 2 questions from Ronald Wiley, and then one from Mark. You want to tap those, Joe?
Sure thing. Yeah, Ronald says, are there any charging stations out west that are similar to gas stations with convenience centers like a Pilot or TA for EVs? Yeah, we've started to see that. Tesla is locating their. It has a couple of charging stations that are kind of like fast food centers as well. So not quite like the convenience store, but like getting close. We've also seen Shell bought a charging company, and they're starting to install some of that charging companies' chargers at their gas stations. So that's a good sign. A lot of times, your fast chargers are located in like grocery store parking lots or Walmart parking lots. So usually, you have all the amenities you need around a charging station. Even if there's no convenience store right there, it's usually nearby, or you're near a supermarket.
Now, Joe, do you see that changing, especially as you see more broader adoption of EV? Do you see in the future where EV charging will be their standalone locations, just like you have gas stations? Do you ever think we'll get to that point?
Yeah, I think so. I think quickly. I mean, the predictions are that by in the next 10 years, we're going to see we're at 5% right now, but that's up from like 1%. We could be at 50% by the end of 2030, and so I think we'll see a lot of fast charging stations. It's a really good opportunity because it does take 15 to 30 minutes depending on how much charge you need and how big your battery is. So that's an opportunity to put in a coffee shop, a restaurant, have people have lunch. I see a golden opportunity to like pair eating establishments and charging together, and I think we'll see a lot of that.
Absolutely, great. Wow. So Joe, thanks for this. And the last question I have for you, Joe, and then we're going to get ready to hear from Jeff, is really around the economic opportunities, right? As this space continues to evolve, what do you hear? What have you heard? Or I know we are both in a lot of conversations, but what have you heard around the emerging economic opportunities, workforce opportunities for this space?
Yeah, and here's where we need to kind of connect some dots, because we're seeing that there's going to be, electric vehicles are going to need less mechanical work, which is good for consumers, maybe not as good for mechanics, but they're going to need some. And so we're going to need to train a new generation of mechanics to work on electric vehicles, and also folks to install all the charging infrastructure that we're going to need. So I look forward to kind of partnering on that together, Darnell, and really creating these workforce opportunities, because we do, even though electric vehicles might, there might be some things that we need less of, like mechanics. We are going to need more of electricians and folks installing charging stations. And so connecting on the right workforce opportunities is something we all should be thinking about and working on.
Absolutely. And the last question, and we're gonna pivot, is Bradley Wooten asks, what would you consider, Joe, the primary downside to owning an electric vehicle to be?
Oh, that's good. That's a good question, because I'm such an enthusiast that I can always I can talk about it forever. The downside to owning electric vehicles is probably the lack of we still need some more charging stations. So we need more fast charging stations. Now, like for some cars like Tesla, it's really almost equivalent. Anywhere you go, there's a charging station. And charging companies are moving quickly to fill some of those gaps. We're not there where you have total convenience like you have. We had 100 years of gas cars building up their infrastructure. If we looked at the first 10 years of the gas car, I mean, how many gas stations do we think there were? Probably not very many. So we have to, we're not at the point where every exit that you pull off of the interstate, there's going to be that easy, convenient charging station. And we want to get there, as soon as possible. So it's just as easy to drive an electric vehicle as a gas car. So that would be the one downside. We're not quite there, but we're already close. In the 5 years I've had an electric car, we're so much closer to that than we were 5 years ago. So that's exciting.
Absolutely. And then Mark slid one in on us. What's the status of wireless charging on highways?
I'm not as up to date. It's called induction charging. I've seen some pilots on it where you just pull onto the highways. I think would be difficult. That'll be far in the future. What we have seen are some inductive chargers where cars pull onto these charging pads, and they can just sit there and don't have to connect a cord, and they can charge the car. I have to admit, the mechanics of that escape me. I don't know how that works. But so I've seen a couple of pilots on that, taxi companies and other folks who are just kind of sitting, waiting for a car. A call can just charge their car while they're there. So that's exciting. A new way to charge your car, where maybe you don't have to connect a cord. I think the highways will be further down the road. That's going to be harder to do. But inductive charging, where you just sit on your tires sit and it somehow charges the car, is really cool. There are some pilots going on with that.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Joe. And for everyone, Joe from Forth, he's with us all the way from Portland. on tonight, doing some amazing work. He said that they're just a nonprofit, but they're more than a nonprofit. Their work precedes them. They're very open to working with folks that are actually delivering services on the ground and supporting in whatever way that they can. Our firm is working very closely with Joe, has been helpful in expediting our path. And we're going to continue to build on that relationship and continue to bring some awesome opportunities to the folks in our area. And so, Joe, thanks to you and to Fourth and for all of your work, and to the team, the entire team. We want to say thanks for tonight, and hang out with us. I'm sure there may be some other questions that may be popping up before we get out of here.
No, absolutely. Thanks so much, you, Darnell. We really love working together and love me being here tonight. So, but I'll shut up and go off camera, but I'll be in the chat.
Absolutely. Thanks, Joe. And I was actually with Joe earlier today at his, they have an amazing conference, the e-mobility conference. And I was actually on his panel today. They had some amazing conversations around electric buses and everything. So thanks for the opportunity today, Joe. And hopefully we'll return the favor. All right. So next we have up is Jeff, who's coming to us from VoltPost, and he's going to be sharing with us some innovative concepts around charging as well, EV charging. And we're going to get his slides loaded up now. Jeff is coming on screen, and our team is going to load up your slides so that you can trickle through. We encourage everyone, if you still have questions, please post them in the chat. Thank everyone for your engagement and your interaction tonight. Has been amazing. While this is coming up and while we're waiting on Joe, I want to just share a couple of the polls with you all, just the results, so I can be a person of my word and make sure that we are sharing that information. There we go. So when we were asking about folks that have multiple vehicles in the household, 67% of us have more than 2 vehicles in the household. So that would ultimately significantly increase the emissions that we have in the air, which ultimately compromises the quality of air, especially in densely populated communities. And %63 of the folks on the call have never owned an electric car. 21% has. And then 87% are interested in test driving an electric vehicle, which is pretty interesting. And we have your email addresses, so we'll be following up with you for those of you that are interested in that. And then have you ever driven an electric vehicle? Actually, 53% of the people have never driven an electric vehicle. 32% of the folks have a hybrid patrol car. And then 16% has driven a fully electric vehicle. So, and then the last question was, have you considered buying an electric vehicle before today? 86% said yes. That's pretty exciting. The 86% of you all have considered buying an electric vehicle before today. Electric vehicles are environmentally friendly because they have 0 emissions. 89% of us agree with that. All right. So just want to give you guys the polling on that. What I want to do is I want to turn my mic off and turn this over to Jeff from VoltPost. He's going to talk to us about democratizing charging access. Joe, it's on you.
Thanks very much. Can you hear me okay? Just checking my mic.
Yes, we can. We can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you, Mayor Thompson, for the opportunity to share background on VoltPost today. Also really appreciate the warm introduction, Darnell. As Darnell mentioned, my name is Jeff Prosserman, and we founded VoltPost to decarbonize mobility in cities, and we do this to democratize charging access. Our goal is to make EV charging as ubiquitous as the common lampposts in a given city today. And let me just see if I can click through here. Great, everything works. So transportation accounts for about 1/3 of annual greenhouse gas emissions. And in cities, the top EV adoption barrier is the lack of public charging. Whether you read Bloomberg, McKinsey, or ask the person next to you, major barrier for people to get an EV is just access today. That's obviously growing, but we're still on the early days of where we need to get to. So there's, depending on the region that you're looking at, around 1% of cars that are EV on the road today, although the sales are a little bit higher than that. And we need to get to the 50 to 60% range by 2030 in order to prevent climate disaster, and really be on a pathway to net zero. So with millions of city drivers primarily parking on the street today, we recognize that there's an opportunity to build out public charging. And we believe that we're building the best solution to serve city drivers, people who live in multi-unit dwelling apartments who may not have private access to parking as well. So we do this by retrofitting lampposts into smart EV charging stations. And this integrated charging solution is easy and quick to install on existing infrastructure, lampposts. We believe that widespread curbside charging is truly needed to grow the EV market from the early adopters into the mainstream. And in talking to municipalities, utilities across the country, we recognize that it really has to be a mix of charging solutions in order to serve the need of all drivers and all parking situations. And at this point, I mean, we're still in our early days, but we are looking to provide cities and companies with truly scalable curbside charging, so drivers have convenient access no matter where they may be. So some of the key features of what we're building today, one is the hardware, and we have LED light feedback on the actual unit itself. We're looking to have an integrated cable solution. So by actually having it inside the unit, it gets unlocked through your mobile device. And then by having this designed in this way, we believe it's a much more resilient solution, recognizing the weather of the world today. We're making this smart. So ultimately, there's a meter inside to track the electricity, which gets reported back to the utility. And we really want to make sure that this is first and foremost 100% safe and fits into the fabric of communities in a way that really becomes a beacon or icon of sustainability, and really just beautifies communities. So the charging sector is experiencing really rapid growth, as we can all see by the market and policy megatrends. And we really believe that lamppost charging is going to be a big part of that solution with everything that's happening today. Obviously, President Biden in August committed to a goal of 50% EV sales by 2030, and then even further going into the next decade. And the infrastructure bill just signed on Monday has $7.5 billion with the goal of 500,000 chargers. So we're really here to support Illinois' goal to get 1 million EVs on the road by 2030. The other part of the product, so beyond the charging hardware, is the mobile application. And we have a few of us who started this company who have shared background designing and developing products at Samsung prior to starting this. And really, we just saw an opportunity, given the climate crisis, to try and do something to make more of a positive impact with our digital product background, IoT, and the ability to bring hardware and software together in an integrated consumer experience that really could offer up cities and drivers just a network. Looking at some of the things we've learned from other mobility apps that have been successful in the past, from ride sharing to bike sharing, etc. Some of those paradigms we can leverage in charging ecosystem. So, for example, the first piece being the discovery of charging stations on a map, being able to click on specific stations and getting status. That includes both the time and cost to fully charge, which obviously is significantly cheaper than a gas-powered vehicle. We're considering with certain municipalities the ability to reserve parking spots alongside charging and integrating with the existing parking apps to provide just another pain point to help solve where it makes sense to do so, obviously. There's some municipalities that are actually beginning to roll out EV-only charging spots. And we believe that this just provides an opportunity on two fronts there. Then, obviously, when you're away from the vehicle, having the ability to get notifications of the status alongside when you're fully charged and when to return, streamlining payment, and then getting insights. So really, we look at this as an opportunity to express climate leadership. And similar to the way gamification works for fitness apps today, getting badges and showing status. So if you charge 1,000 or 10,000 miles, then it really becomes a badge of showing your leadership. Then the third component of the system is the charge management backend dashboard. And this basically is going to track the utilization per Volpo's charger per neighborhood. And really, we're looking to use this to provide back to the municipalities and utility companies the data that they need on an aggregate level. It's not tracking individuals by any means. It's just to really inform how these are being used to properly account back to the grid and to the utility company, and then ultimately surface insights over time to inform future deployment. So we can really make sure that we're serving all communities where charging is needed, where we can see that it's being high utilization, that there's more chargers needed. And ultimately, our system design on the hardware is very modular. So it actually lives on top of the existing asset and it's non-invasive. So it doesn't damage the asset. It just taps into the conduit and ultimately into the grid from there. Each lamppost, I forgot to mention, has 2 charging ports in the standard configuration, but we're designing this in a modular fashion. So there actually could be in parking lots up to 4. And we're looking at this as a level 2 network, even though there is clearly opportunity to look at fast charging and level 1 for different use cases. We're finding that level 2 is becoming the backbone of public charging, and level 3 has benefits, certainly. And if you're driving from one city to the next, then you want to stop off and you want to have that shortest period of time. But in doing our customer research, talking to EV drivers, EV hopeful drivers looking to convert, and just trying to understand the pain points and opportunities, we recognize that if you leave your car, if you're going in for a couple hours to a store or maybe parking, visiting a friend, what have you, that really you end up sitting there for the vehicle sits there for a couple hours, and it's not about necessarily always running back to the car within that 30 to 45 minute spectrum. Also, obviously, there's going to be a bunch of additional power that comes onto the grid that's hopefully clean alongside these EV chargers, so we can be 100% zero emissions. And as that occurs, I mean, really, it's going to need to both parallel ramp up together. And we want to obviously not overload the grid and be a true partner with the utility companies to make sure that we're keeping costs down and deploying in an impactful way that meets their needs. Just in this image, I mean, we're showing examples of how we can incorporate street art and really just trying to personalize. These aren't really specific examples, but more just wanting to blend into the fabric of communities and having an element of personalization. It has a concrete base, wanting to just be resilient with the technology on the top. So we're just looking at other avenues of how to make this fit into communities. So again, it can be something that communities are proud of and can support all members of the community. Here's just an example of what it looks like outside. And really, we started Volpos to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by increasing charging access. This network will accelerate EV adoption with convenient charging that fits into all communities. And we believe this strategy provides social benefits that will ultimately align with Illinois' recent bill on trying to get to those climate targets. Fully scaled, the company aims to avoid millions of tons of carbon from entering the atmosphere each year. And truly, we see this as an opportunity to foster equitable growth that benefits all communities, not just for the rich, but really disadvantaged and everything in between. Our goal is to improve transportation across the state where there's transit deserts, improve air quality, and really provide access so everybody can feel empowered to get behind the wheel of an EV. So just to give a bit of background of where we are in this process, as you can imagine, not many of these, actually none of these are in on the road in the US today, but we're building the Volpo system and working with multiple municipalities across the country. And our goal is to partner and ultimately set up demonstration projects, which then lead into pilots going into the spring and summer of next year. And we would obviously love to partner with Broadview as an opportunity to show your climate leadership. Our goal is really to scale purpose alongside profit to make a positive impact for the future of humanity. And we welcome your support to transform lampposts into Voltposts. So appreciate your time this evening. Happy to answer any questions you may have around what we're building or anything else. Does anybody have any questions? I'm just going to check the chat here.
Ronald Wiley asked the question, Jeff, how many vehicles can charge from one light post unit at a time?
Oh, perfect. So the standard configuration has 2 charging ports, one each side for curbside. However, we also are designing it in a modular fashion where we can have 4. So in a standard parking lot, essentially it could make sense to have 4 ports, 4 plugs, but then when we're curbside, there's 2. And essentially by having the cable integrated within the capsule, the unit itself, it just makes it also, so when it's not in use, there's not cable hanging around in the built environment, but everything is just integrated and tucked away.
Okay. And Mayor Thompson asked, would we have to replace the poles to accommodate the charging stations?
No, that's the goal is to do this as a pure retrofit and really keep the costs down as much as possible. And really we're looking at the standard lamppost configuration, which has slightly different diameter, but we have a gasket solution which enables it to fit without really adopting a different SKU for the technology, the actual hardware. So yeah, there's 26 million lampposts, I think, across the country. So we believe that there's clearly an opportunity just with the standard configuration. When we look at things that are more ornate in more historic districts, then that's a slightly different question. But that's really a little bit further down the road in the roadmap. We're really looking at the more standard pole to start.
And my question would be, Jeff, in comparisons of price between your solution versus a standard charging station being installed from one of the offerers, what is the difference in pricing?
It's actually significantly cheaper and faster to deploy, and it obviously has a much smaller footprint by not taking up new space on the sidewalk or in the built environment by literally living on top of the existing lamppost. So just to give a sense, a charging station, typically you have to do the construction and trenching. So they may rip up the sidewalk and then do the wiring. By doing it as a retrofit on the lamppost, we can, in the majority of cases, completely avoid that and just tap into the existing wiring that's there. And in doing so, it significantly, in the tens of thousands, brings down the cost. We've done analysis for different projects and shown that cost comparison, but I don't want to just throw numbers around without getting into the specifics. And then on the timing side, obviously, when you get into construction and trenching and potentially ripping up the sidewalk or pavement, you just get into months of time to get a single site going, where in our case, it can significantly reduce that. Still need to do the permitting and get agreement from all stakeholders, but essentially it comes down to sending out a trained registered technician rather than going through that larger process.
And the electrical work, Joe asked, what kind of electrical work do you have to do to the lamppost to add the charger to it?
Good question. So for level 1 charging, that trickle slow charging, there's not much. It's literally within an hour or two. We can actually come in, retrofit on top of the existing lamppost, tap into the grid because the power typically is there. For level 2, which is what we're typically pushing to work with municipalities, as we recognize that's what people have requested. Sometimes the power's there, and sometimes it requires power upgrades. And when it does require the power upgrades, obviously it's a case by case because the grid is whatever it is today, and we have to look at that as an analysis and feasibility. But ultimately, our intention is to still avoid that construction and trenching and be snaking the wiring through the existing conduit or wiring with it, so it still doesn't balloon the cost.
Okay. Deb asked, speaking of installation, in our region, we have to plan strategically around the winter months so that we aren't digging, laying conduit when there is snow and ice on the ground. Could these be installed throughout the year?
Good question. I mean, to be completely honest, we haven't tried to do this in the middle of the winter yet, just in the nature that we're developing the product now and looking for initial pilot partners. But in theory, in the way that we are designing this from like a engineering perspective, it technically should be fine in that we're not actually ripping up, we're not doing that invasive work essentially. But obviously we have to go through the process of doing it once before I can confirm that outwardly. So.
Okay. All right, Jeff, thanks for your time and for all the responses. To everyone that's been engaging, thanks. We have just a host of different folks. Deb is from Cook County Department of Environment and Sustainability. We have Troy on the call. There's just so many people that have tapped in today for this conversation, and I think that it's really important that we continue to have these discussions and this dialogue, all because of the work that Mayor Thompson is doing in the Village of Broadview. And I would be remiss if I did not give this back to her for the final remarks and the closing. I want to thank everyone for your time tonight. Jeff, thank you. Joe from Forth, thank you. To our marketing, branding, communication, and IT partner, Fame Enterprises, to Chris and to Derek, thank you guys so much. Please make sure that you guys continue to answer the remaining questions that are popping up on the screen. And like what would you want to learn more about, so that will help to inform our future sessions that we're going to be hosting in the coming weeks. And so please make sure that we have your information so that you can be a part of, at least invited to those. These are at no cost to you. And we want to make sure that we're putting together sessions and bringing the experts that are going to answer the questions that are most pressing to you as the individuals that are the stakeholders of these communities. So thank you so much. I want to, at this time, give this back to Mayor Thompson for the final remarks and closing. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you, Darnell, and I want to say thank you to all the presenters tonight and all that participated on this virtual meeting as we talked about EV charging stations. So we know that it's not a secret that transportation is leading the source of climate pollution. The Reimagining Electric Vehicle Act is about acknowledging that there does not need to be a trade-off between a cleaner environment and more jobs. Both can be done. We're doing our part in the Village of Broadview. We are actually putting a conduit in place as it relates to charging stations. I don't know the different levels, so that was new for me to start looking into like the different levels 1, 2, and 3 on what's best practices. I do like the what Jeff had brought to us as it relates to the pose opportunities as we look at redevelop our Roosevelt Road corridor and what that would mean to our visitors and our business partners that's on the commercial corridor sector. So I'm happy to entertain that conversation as well as me and my team, the leadership team within the Village of Broadview, go into this direction of EV emissions. So I want to say thank you to everyone that's participated, and thank you, Darnell, for always doing it at a high level. I always learn something new when I'm in the room with Darnell, so I appreciate that. But let's continue the conversation. I did ask the question about registration because back in 2019, maybe 2018, 2019, conversation had came up on what registration would look like because when we use fuel, our motor fuel tax is from the uses of fuel, and that's how the state of Illinois reconstruct our roads and those types of things. And if everybody go to electric vehicle, what happens to that fund and that support our infrastructure as it relates to roads and bridges? And it's something that we have to consider. Like for me, I drive a hybrid, and I learned a lot even driving the hybrid, and I'm looking to go to the electric vehicle portion of it. And when we look at how we take care of our infrastructure within the state, it's all of our responsibility. It's not just one entity. So it's a lot of things that we have to digest and we would have to adapt to as it relates to how we take care of our local roads, the state roads, and those types of things. So I just want to put that on the radar of the residents that may be listening to this. If it ever, and I will have to do some more research and circle back to you all on that, but if it ever came to a point where, it would, the inflation of our registration may go up because we're not using fuel to accommodate infrastructure for our roads. So it's definitely a conversation to have, but for me, it's all about clean energy in a healthy environment so that we can reduce asthma within our community, and we can do this by changing the emissions in our vehicles. So thank you, God bless you, and have a good night.
And Mayor, Joe responded to your point about the gas. He said, great point, Mayor. We'll have to figure that out, how to pay for infrastructure without gasoline. There are different pilots out there. So I could schedule some time with Joe and myself and you to have that further discussion around that as well. And Mark also said mileage charged through annual registration. So I saw that Mr. Wiley responded to your question, Mayor. When you asked that, if you'd be willing to pay, if it costs $1,000, and he said it depends, on what it's for, and making sure that there's transparency on what the uses of those dollars would be for. So I think that there's a lot that we need to continue to have, conversations we need to continue to have. And I want to thank everyone for your time. It's been a great time working with Mayor Thompson. It's always a pleasure. She's such a pathfinder and a cavalier. She's invested in this. This is not just something that she's doing because of her role as the mayor, but she really believes in it. And it's proof in all of the decisions and the steps that she's taking with the Village of Broadview. So we're really appreciative for your leadership, Mayor. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm happy to do the work, actually.
So thank everyone for tonight. Thank you guys so much. We will be making sure that we keep you informed of all upcoming opportunities and sessions. The mayor will be hosting more of these town hall types of dialogues based upon the feedback that you all provided to us tonight. So please be watching your emails. We'll be setting these up. Again, thank you for everyone that tapped in tonight. To all of the youth from the Green Generation. I see Malia, Tia. Thank you guys for stopping in tonight. I know you guys have other things going on. You're busy.